you. So
I'm glad to be with you.
all right. Well, we want to start on time, and we know we'll have a few people who will be coming in a little bit later, but let's open with prayer. The Lord be with you.
With you.
Gracious Lord, we give to you this time, and we ask that we can follow you wherever you will go, that you will give us the courage to deny ourselves and take up our cross, whatever that may be, frequently taking us to places and to people that are oppressed and marginalized, forgotten and overlooked. And with courage and a great trust in you, we will be your disciples. We ask your blessing on today, on the planning, on our speakers, on all those who are already doing your good work. Give them the energy and the courage and the perseverance to keep going, and let them know that we are here to support them. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's see. Let me just let you all know this meeting is being recorded. So if anybody has any objections to that, would you please unmute yourself or put a message in the chat.
We also will ask that you'll mute yourselves rather than me mute the person who's speaking next. So please feel free to do that.
Okay, looks like we're all right with recording. That'll help for folks that couldn't make it here today. And then my next request is that you go to the chat and put your name and your affiliation, if you have an organizational affiliation, and any contact information that you would like to share with us or with your fellow workers here. And thank you very much for being here today. We're really glad that you're here.
We have one person who's identified as iPhone. If you could please rename yourself, otherwise I will have to put you in the waiting room. We need everyone to identify themselves. We don't have to see your face necessarily, but we need to know who you are. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over. Oh, by the way, I am Roberta Wall, and I am a retired deacon and a retired educator and pretty much full-time volunteer with a number of organizations, including AMMPARO, around immigration issues. So happy to be here and good to see you all today. Jeff, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Jacobson, and I'm a member at Shepherd of the Valley Lutheran Church, and I've been a member of the Pacifica Synod AMMPARO group for quite a while now. And I was also a volunteer at the San Diego Rapid Response Network migrant shelter that's operated by Jewish Family Service. And my internet is going in and out bad, so I hope I can get through this and I don't freeze up. Anyway, first thing, we're going to read the mission statement, and we've been working on this several months, and it looks like it's pretty much finalized. Pacifica Synod AMMPARO provides advocacy and support services for asylees, refugees, and migrants seeking asylum regardless of country of origin. We seek to work with ALCA congregations and with local and national agencies to assist migrant families in accessing services they may need during and after the hearing process, to conduct fundraisers to assist families during transition, to provide emotional-based support such as writing letters to migrants in detention centers, to provide advocacy work with local and national organizations, and to support migrant shelters facilities in the United States and Mexico. We do a lot of work. We try to. But it's very important for the Pacifica Synod AMMPARO to work and network with other immigration organizations such as Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services, the Haitian Bridge Alliance, Jewish Family Services, Survivors of Torture, and we also deal with Madre de Asunta shelter in Tijuana. Now for our special guests, and thank you for all three of you for joining us today. I think that Ashley is having some issues with her internet. Must be the day for internet issues. So Katrina is here, and I don't know if she's going to speak or not, but anyway, we have Giovana, Oaxaca. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Giovana. She's Program Director for Migration Policy for the Service and Justice Home Area of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, working on federal legislative and administrative policy issues affecting refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants. Giovana holds bachelor's degrees in both politics and government and economics from Pacifica University in Oregon. Giovana started as congressional intern and went on to support multiple statewide measuring campaigns as an organizer and director. Previously, Giovana was employed as a government relations associate for a national faith-based social justice lobby, focusing on federal, social, and economic policy, and a research analyst intern in the private sector. Giovana is based in Washington, D.C., where she lives with her partner and a cat. Good for you. And then the second speaker is going to be Diane Coker. Diana is a partner with Larrabee Abi Coker LLP in San Diego, California. Her practice focuses on employment-based and family immigration law. She was awarded a Juris Doctor degree from the Washington College of Law at American University in Washington, D.C., and is licensed to practice law in California, Illinois, and the District of Columbia. Diana is past chapter chair of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and currently serves as a member of the AILA National Advocacy Committee for the San Diego AILA chapter, as well as an ambassador for the American Immigration Counselor. She frequently speaks with members of Congress and their staff regarding immigration issues and has served on a grassroots task force to advocate for positive change. Ashley Frez, who's with Jewish Family Services, is director of the migrant shelter operated by Jewish Family Service in partnership with the San Diego Rapid Response Network. With over a decade of experience in shelter services and emergency management, Ashley helped to build a sustainable model for asylum care in both congregate and non-congregate spaces. Throughout the last 2.5 years of shelter care, Jewish Family Services has provided ongoing case management, nutrition services, medical screenings, and financial support for our migrant families. Giovana is going to speak about DACA, the Dreamers Act, and TPS. Diana will speak about the MPP, which is Migrant Protection Protocols, or the metered program, stay in Mexico. And then Ashley will be speaking about the migrant shelter and its needs on a go-forward basis. And hopefully she can join us, and if not, I'm hoping that Katrina might be able to take her spot. Anyway, with that, Giovana, you're up to bat.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to present with you all. I'm also on the AMMPARO Executive Committee and team. So if you hear from me through the AMMPARO listserv, it's usually me sending those updates. So I'm really pleased to be able to present with you what has happened around DACA and TPS and sort of what comes next. So I did prepare a presentation. I don't know if I'm able to get screen sharing permissions to do that.
Pastor Carla will do that.
Giovana, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
Go back a screen. You've been muted for a bit, unfortunately.
Okay, I was just commenting, we're just going to take a deep dive into DACA and TPS. So we'll just jump right in. I know we want to take some questions at the end, so hopefully I can keep it to a couple of minutes. But just to begin with, I thought I'd present you all with a timeline of what has happened to DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, since the Supreme Court ruled that the termination of DACA in 2017 by the Trump administration was unlawful. At that time, the Supreme Court did not take up the issue of whether the program was constitutional or not, so they allowed the program to proceed. What we saw, however, in July 2020 was that the administration immediately retaliated and issued a memo suspending certain parts of the program. The parts of the program that were suspended, were new applications. They limited the term for DACA from 2 years to 1 year, and they rejected all advanced parole applications. So that's when somebody is interested in leaving the country for humanitarian reasons, possibly to visit like a sick family member, et cetera. That advanced parole was suspended. In December 2020, a federal judge decided to reinstate DACA because he vacated the memo that was issued by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Wolf. That memo means that DACA is now reverted back to its original form before September 5th, 2017, when the Trump administration first tried to end the program. However, it is important to emphasize that the program, although it has been reinstated, is still under threat. So in a separate case, Texas and 8 other states have sued the administration and asked the US District Judge Andrew Hannon to end DACA. So in December then, things have been happening very quickly in succession. Judge Hannon held a hearing in Texas v. USA that challenged to the program, but did not decide to issue a decision at that time. We're still waiting for a decision from Judge Hannon, which means that the program could be terminated in its entirety any day now. It's something that is kind of hanging over the backdrop as we begin contemplating what will happen next to the DACA program. All, approximately 640 DACA recipients that have DACA and all those who would be eligible. Fortunately, on January 2021, President Biden assumed office and issued an executive order to preserve and fortify DACA, giving some hope and reassurance to DACA holders and prospective DACA recipients that the program would be allowed to stand as it was reinstated until Judge Hannon issues a decision. The executive order also holds a promise that if something were to happen to the program, the president would act immediately to protect those with DACA status. Also in January 2021, President Biden sent a sweeping immigration proposal to Congress called the U.S. Citizenship Act, which is it's an example of this administration turning the page on immigration reform. And the sweeping immigration proposal that was sent includes a pathway for DACA recipients to earn citizenship, TPS holders and farm workers. But more broadly speaking, the U.S. Citizenship Act also includes a way for other undocumented individuals in the country to earn citizenship. So where do things currently stand on DACA? For now, USCIS, the agency that administers DACA applications, is accepting new applications, renewal requests, and applications for advanced parole. And we saw that in just the last couple of weeks of 2020, nearly 200 people were granted DACA. So that's people who did not formally have DACA, maybe because it was rescinded or they were unable to apply during that time that it was terminated by the administration. 200 people have been able to receive DACA in that time. It's important to highlight, of course, that DACA is under threat once more, but it really underscores the necessity of looking beyond DACA and administrative policy to protect individuals who call this country their home. And for that, we look towards Congress for permanent protections, to legislate a pathway rather than to continue to await these the things to go through the courts. I'll provide some resources in the chat, but you'll be able to get the latest DACA resources from the organization United We Dream. And I would urge anyone who is interested to support first-time applications and renewals financially if you're able to do so. And of course, support the broader call for permanent protections for Dreamers. All right, so now on temporary protected status. A lot of people are unfamiliar with the program, possibly because it kind of gets overshadowed in the national immigration discussion around by DACA specifically. So what is temporary protected status? Temporary protected status is a form of humanitarian protection that's granted to individuals on a conditional basis to be eligible for TPS status. The administration assigns it to people from countries that are experiencing turmoil, things like natural disasters, conflicts, things that would otherwise prevent the safe return of foreign nationals who are living in the United States. So there are approximately 411,000 people with TPS in the United States who from 10 different countries. 300,000 of them are at risk of losing their status because in 2017 and 2018, the Trump administration decided to abruptly terminate TPS status for those people, affecting people from El Salvador, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Sudan, but also by extension, those in Nepal and Honduras because they also lost their TPS status. TPS holders challenged this decision in court, and it's been making its way through the courts ever since. In September 2020, the Ninth Circuit Court ruled against the plaintiffs in Ramos v. Nielsen, which is the most prominent legal challenge to the termination. Unfortunately, that was a quite tragic decision, and it was immediately the plaintiffs asked for a review of this decision. What we saw afterwards is that this set in motion, because of an agreement between the plaintiffs and the administration, the auto extension of TPS holders through October 2021. So that means those TPS holders that would be affected by the termination of their status now have an auto extension at least until October 2021. And then most recently, in February, just a couple days ago actually, the Ninth Circuit Court agreed to pause litigation proceedings for an additional 60 days. So sort of acknowledging that, or giving way for the administration to take its own, to take action on TPS in their own way. This is good news. It sort of just puts everything on hold for a time being. And we're excited, sorry, I'll get to the questions in just a second. We're excited to see, that the Biden administration is looking to take action on TPS. The US Citizenship Act that I mentioned earlier, the sweeping comprehensive immigration bill would protect temporary protected status holders, many of whom have lived in this country for over 10 years. In fact, the majority of TPS holders have been residents in the United States for much longer than other groups of immigrants. So ensuring that they have stability and protection should be a priority for all of us. Not only that, it would be disastrous and inhumane to return people to countries that are afflicted, as I mentioned, by things like conflict or recent natural disasters, like those affecting people in Central America, who were hit by a hurricane, 2 subsequent hurricanes just this last winter and fall. So we want to highlight temporary protected status and what comes next for them because there are hundreds of thousands of people who are long-term members of our communities who have deep ties to our communities who would benefit from a pathway to earn citizenship. I'll highlight once more that what we've seen through the courts and what we've seen play out with DACA and TPS to live, it leaves so much uncertainty in the air and people's lives are suspended by this, what comes next in the courts, what will the courts decide? So we know that only Congress can provide permanent protections for DACA and TPS holders, as well as all of those people who are in our communities without legal status. Some estimates place that at around 11 million people in the United States who are undocumented or otherwise do not have a legal status. As I mentioned, the president sent the U.S. Citizenship Act to Congress, where it was introduced by Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey. It's not the only bill actually that would set Dreamers, TPS holders, farm workers, and more on a path to earn citizenship. Right now, Congress is juggling several bills that I'll dive into in just a second. But we can all agree, comprehensive immigration reform is long overdue, and it's absolutely necessary to ensure that we're honoring those, the dignity and rights of those who call this country their home, who have contributed immensely to our society and economy, and would otherwise, continue to strengthen our nation for years to come, if only they had that stability and protection. So we know that enacting legislation, especially of this magnitude, has been a slippery slope. It has been not achieved for over 30 years. We haven't seen broad immigration reform in over 30 years. And that's why there are these so-called trains, different strategies to make sure that at the end of the day, President Biden is able to sign a bill that will protect as many people as possible through permanent protections. Learning from the failures of 2001, 2006, 2007, and 2013, we're kind of in agreement. This is not an all or nothing approach. We will pursue every means necessary to make sure, again, that President Biden is able to sign a bill that will afford protections for undocumented immigrants, and of course, begin to build a more just, humane immigration system. A little bit about those bills that are circulating right now in Congress. Legislation in the 117th Congress this year center on the U.S. Citizenship Act, which I just mentioned was introduced on the 18th of February. The Dream and Promise Act, or H.R. 6, has not been reintroduced, but it's expected to be reintroduced and actually passed before April, possibly around the time of March 12th is what we're thinking. Same with the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. It hasn't been reintroduced yet, but we're expecting that will be reintroduced and passed by April 1st. The reason for that being is that both of these bills passed in the previous Congress and under a new, under regular order committee process, and they can just be passed relatively quickly. They are by the Farm Workforce Modernization Act is one of the strongest bills that we've seen that would grant protections for people who are in the who are temporary workers in the agricultural sector. So if you're familiar with that bill. There's also the Citizenship for Essential Workers Act, which was just introduced on Friday, I believe, which would provide a roadmap to earn citizenship for immigrant workers who are considered essential under a very broad definition of essential worker. And then, of course, in the Senate, we have the DREAM Act, which was introduced on February 4th, and the SECURE Act. If you're unfamiliar, the DREAM Act has been reintroduced in multiple iterations over the last couple of decades, I guess, 2 decades. And it would protect undocumented youth, providing them a pathway to earn citizenship. The SECURE Act is sort of the counterpart of that for TPS holders. Both of them have strong support, but the SECURE Act, as I mentioned before, sometimes does not get as much attention as the DREAM Act. So just want to put that in front of you all to remind you that we have Dreamers and TPS holders who would benefit from a pathway to legalization. So what can you do? I want to emphasize that, or underscore that immigration reform is not a partisan issue, it's become a politicized one. 75% of the public favors allowing unauthorized immigrants to get legal status. That's 89% of Democrats and 57% of Republicans. 60% of voters support an 8-year path to citizenship, sort of seen as a way to gauge how many people have supported the president's immigration bill, so we can approximately estimate that 60% of voters support it. And then 68% of conservatives favor protections for Dreamers. So once you start looking at the overall support rate for Dreamers in particular, that grows even more. It's really important that we tell Congress at this time, we need you to buckle down, we need you to pass immigration legislation and provide a roadmap to earn citizenship. I'll share this action alert from LIRS if you're interested in taking action. But it tells Congress to reform our immigration system and support the US Citizenship Act of 2021. And overall, we must call on Congress to take up and pass immigration reform as quickly as possible. Because of the way that the dividing Congress is set up, we may only have 2 years to enact legislation. So the quicker we do it, the better. Just to conclude, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about essential workers in general, because this is sort of a new, we want to start bringing it into the mainstream and start talking about how important it is to honor the dignity and work of immigrant essential workers. Essential workers drive the U.S. economy and drive our national recovery. But many of them have been left behind by as they continue to work in important fields and industries that are important for our national recovery, like in healthcare, sanitation, working in grocery stores, etc. We can honor the work of the people who care for us by extending them the security and stability of permanent protections. We're talking about approximately 5.6 million immigrant workers who would be considered essential under a very broad definition of essential worker. And then, of course, there are 1.2 million farm workers and between 72,000 and 361,000 DACA recipients who serve in essential occupations. Italy and Canada have provided permanent protections. Why can't we? They've done this in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we can certainly see an argument for making sure that those people who are making sacrifices every day to serve our communities and broader society don't have to feel very little about or have never actually been to. A just government that serves the common good, that's the headline that is in the ELCA towards compassionate, just, and wise immigration reform social policy resolution. Emphasizing again that undocumented individuals should be permitted to come out of the shadows and have their immediate family members join them on a path to earned legalization. That's sort of where we want to go, and we're hopeful that this administration is recognizing of that, and we're excited about the prospects in Congress. It really is kind of full steam ahead on all of the different trains that I just mentioned. So please continue to be plugged in and informed. Educate your members of Congress, educate yourselves and your communities about this need for broad immigration reform. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Giovana. That was very, very excellent, compelling information, up to date, and we'll hold all of our questions until the end of all three speakers. Very nice. Thank you very much. And Diana, if you want to take over and give us the updates on the MPP program. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you all for inviting me today. I definitely welcome this opportunity to discuss MPP. What I'd like to do is first give a bit of background about what MPP is, and then transition into some of the actions that are being taken to allow individuals in MPP to enter the United States. So first, a bit of background about MPP. In January of 2019, the Trump administration established a new policy known as MPP. That stands for the Migrant Protection Protocols. And this is informally referred to as the Remain in Mexico program. And so under MPP, many individuals who arrived at our southern borders to ask for asylum over the last 2 years were sent back to Mexico to wait for the immigration courts to process their cases. These individuals were given instructions to return to a specific port of entry at a specific date and time to ask for asylum in court, but in the meantime were required to wait in Mexico. And so I mentioned that these individuals were asylum seekers, or are asylum seekers. So a bit of background about what asylum is. It's a form of relief for individuals who have a well-founded fear of persecution in their home country on account of race, religion, national origin, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So these are individuals who are fleeing their home countries due to persecution, and yet they are enrolled in MPP and forced to wait in Mexico in very dangerous conditions. Unfortunately, individuals have been preyed upon while waiting in Mexico. There are over 1,300 publicly documented cases of rape, kidnapping, assault, and other crimes committed against individuals sent back under MPP. And those are just the reported cases. We know that there are many, many more that go unreported. It is pretty clear that MPP is a violation of due process and human rights. What's interesting is starting last March 2020, MPP hearings were suspended due to the COVID pandemic. So even though the court cases were suspended, the former administration kept subjecting people to the program, kept enrolling people in the program without knowing when their case could be heard in court. Just to kind of give you a sense of the numbers, it's estimated that over 70,000 individuals were impacted and put into MPP. A little bit of good news. On President Biden's first day in office, Department of Homeland Security announced that they would stop placing new asylum seekers into MPP. So there were no new enrollments. But I think it's important to note that although no new asylum seekers were placed in MPP, the program has not formally ended. It's still on the books. But what the administration did, on February 11th, Department of Homeland Security announced a plan to process individuals into the United States who have been returned to Mexico under MPP and who have a pending case in immigration court. And so starting February 19th, Department of Homeland Security started phase 1 of its effort to process individuals in MPP into the United States. So currently we're in phase 1 of this plan. San Ysidro, which is the San Diego port of entry, began processing individuals into the United States on February 19th. The Brownsville, Matamoros location began processing individuals on the 23rd. They believe that there are about 25,000 individuals that are eligible for this phase 1 processing into the United States. About 9,000 of them are in Tijuana, 6,000 to 7,000 in Brownsville, and about 9,000 in Ciudad Juarez. So the question becomes, who is eligible for this phase 1 processing into the United States? It's basically individuals enrolled in MPP with an active case, with a court date. So not individuals who have already been ordered removed. So how does this phase 1 system work? There is an electronic registration process Individuals are instructed to register on this electronic site. Those in Mexico can ask UNHCR to help enroll them. There are also attorneys and NGOs that are assisting with that electronic registration process. We've been told that Department of Homeland Security will process these cases first in, first out, meaning those individuals who were first enrolled in MPP will be the first ones processed to come into the United States under this phase 1. So there have been questions about individuals who would be considered vulnerable populations, people with health issues or other serious situations that may have a more urgent need to come into the United States. And so there would be a special process for vulnerable populations. But at this point, we don't yet have a definition of what is a vulnerable population. We also haven't received the details of what that process would look like. What we've been told is that when individuals register on this electronic system, there would be an opportunity to explain why you believe you are in a vulnerable population. And this would be reviewed. And if it is determined that you are in a vulnerable population, your case would be pulled out to be handled more expeditiously. So after individuals are enrolled electronically, then they essentially wait for the next step. They would then be instructed to go to a particular staging site for COVID testing. UNHCR, UNICEF, and IOM, which is a government agency in Mexico, they would arrange to get individuals to the staging area for COVID testing. We were told that family units will stay together as they're going through this COVID testing. So if one family member tests positive and the rest together and make arrangements, but you will need to have a negative test in order to gain admission into the United States. After the COVID testing, the next step in this process is for individuals to complete a form and let Department of Homeland Security know what your final address will be in the United States. That form is referred to as EOIR 33. And it's a very important form because that form and that address in the United States will dictate or will help change the venue of the court case. So if you're moving and your end destination is in Florida, you want your court case to be in Florida. It'll also assist with the check-ins that will need to occur. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement will be doing check-ins with these individuals, and you want that check-in location to be close to where the individual will end up eventually residing. So this form will become a critical piece in that puzzle. So when it's time for them to appear at the port of entry and be processed into the United States, they will go through facial recognition and a bag check. There will not be a review of documents. It will simply be a facial recognition and bag check. The immigration inspectors at the port of entry, Customs and Border Protection, they will parole individuals into the United States and will issue an electronic admission record known as an I-94 card. And so it is an electronic record. And so one of the things that the NGOs, nonprofits are doing is they are bringing printers to the US side of the border to help print out these electronic I-94 admission records, because this I-94 document is going to be the individual's proof of their status in the United States. So it's a very important document, and they have to be able to have access to the technology to access it. We've been also told that Customs and Border Protection will help individuals get proper identification documents so that they can board an airplane and get to their final destination, or board a train and get to their final destination. So hopefully CBP will follow through and help in getting those identity documents for individuals. So the goal is to being processed into the US. So 300 individuals who are in MPP to be processed a day. After the individual makes it through the inspection and makes it through Customs and Border Protection, they will be then handed over to ICE in the United States. ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE will collect that address form, that EOIR 33, and they will then make a determination whether the individual requires an ankle bracelet or detention. We have been told that only a few people will actually end up receiving ankle bracelets or detention. So we're really hoping that that number will be very small, and that most individuals will be released right away, even if they do require an ankle bracelet. That we're going to have JFS speak about their migrant shelter, but that is going to be for many people the next step, which is to seek shelter there as they're making their next steps into the United States. What we don't know at this point is what phase 2 of this process is going to look like, or when phase 2 will take effect. We have people who obviously are not part of phase 1, and they include individuals who were MPP, who enrolled in MPP, they had their court dates and their cases were denied and they were ordered removed. And so what processes do we have for those individuals? And we're still waiting to hear more information about that. Just wanted to talk briefly about. So there are individuals who are still going to the border seeking asylum. There are no new individuals being enrolled in MPP. So we have these individuals who are coming to the border, fleeing persecution, and CBP is telling those individuals, we can't process you, we don't have the capacity. And so they're turning these individuals away and putting them on wait lists. It's estimated that there are about 16,000 people on these waiting lists in about 9 Mexican cities. And so they are not being helped by the MPP program. They are outside of this program. And so we don't have a process for bringing them in at this point. And it's just very interesting because it basically, the people who are a part of this metering policy, they're suffering the same results of MPP, meaning they are asylum seekers and they are required to wait in Mexico in very dangerous and inhumane conditions. So that's the current update. We are continuing to get information as these situation as it stands right now.
Thank you very much, Diana. It's a lot of information, and it's always the landscape changes, it seems, every day. And we've got to keep our nose to the grindstone and keep on plugging away. Now we're going to have Katrina Bruins from the shelter, Jewish Family Services Shelter speak. Ashley's having problems with her internet, as I am. So Katrina, the floor is yours.
May I just interject real quick? If there are some experts that can stay for the whole time, that might be towards the end of our time together. Thank you if you are available.
Awesome. Well, I am Katrina. Nice to meet you all. I work directly with Ashley at our JFS migrant shelter. And we started operations back in September of 2018. And I think I joined one of these meetings last year, or maybe it was 2019. I feel like last year is a bunch of years in one. So you may have heard some of our updates at that point, but the shelter really started in collaboration with San Diego Rapid Response Network, an association of about 40 different organizations in San Diego. And it was a response to the safe release program ending. And so at that point, migrants were able to contact their families, or sorry, point of contact here in the States before being released into the US. And so we're able to arrange for transportation, for travel with those points of contacts and kind of let them know that they were coming across. When that program ended, they ended up just leaving a bunch of families down at the Greyhound station at the border and not really giving them any resources for getting a hold of their points of contact here, their sponsor families. And so a bunch of organizations got together to respond to that and started providing services right away. And we've been doing that ever since. So before COVID, we had a congregate shelter space, and this was a space where families were coming to our shelter and staying until their travel arrangements were made. We would help with case management, food, giving them a shelter, a place to stay for the night, clothing, and then medical attention as well. So if they needed any medical clearance before they were able to travel, we would be able to provide that, as well as basic legal information as well with our legal team. And so when COVID hit, we had to obviously change quite a bit because of policy changes that happened in March and not really being able to operate a congregate space any longer. And so JFS continued to offer services to those that were coming through, but again, it was a very small number that were coming through the border from March until about December. In December, we started receiving about, I think there are 54 that came in our care in December, and then in January, 140. And then in the first week of February, it grew to 200. And so it's continuing to increase from there, but you can just kind of see a little bit of the progression from December until now and what that has looked like. So right now, JFS offers services while families are staying in hotels. So they're quarantining right now in hotel rooms and are still receiving case management, food service, help with transportation, legal, and help with getting in contact with their points of contact here in the US. And so we have continued the same services, just not in a congregate setting. So right now, everybody is just staying in hotel rooms until they are cleared to travel after so everybody was receiving a COVID test prior to coming to these hotels and have to quarantine until they are able to travel. And so we are working on all those travel arrangements, continuing to have case managers check in on these families and offer resources. Ashley will send a little bit of a follow-up with some additional information as far as what our services look like, but I wanted to take a couple of minutes to share about some of the ways that people can get involved if they're interested in helping in this effort. So we do have 3 volunteer positions right now where you or people in your congregations can come alongside and help us with these efforts. One is our airport guide. And so we have, again, families that are traveling every day. Sometimes we have up to 16 families traveling in one day. So we need additional hands and support to help guide these families from the front desk. So helping them print their tickets, getting their luggage checked in if they have any luggage, and walking them through security. Security has to do a phone call to ICE to make sure that their identity is verified and that they're able to travel, and then have to go through security and be pat down because of the ankle monitors that they have, and extra screening happens at security. So volunteers are really our advocates and able to step in and make sure that these families are being treated correctly and that they understand what's happening and that this is a normal part of the process to get through the airport. And then getting them to have a connecting flight, what that looks like, where they're going, how long they should be expecting to wait at the airport. A lot of times this is the first time anyone's traveling in the US, especially in an airport, but sometimes first time by air at all. And so it's just important to be able to give them context for what's going on and help them to know what to look for, how to find their seat, where the restrooms are, things like that. So volunteers are really critical in that effort, and we need support 7 days a week. So would love support if anything is available for that. We also have volunteers help us by being medical advocates. And so this is volunteers would be able to come and drive families to medical appointments. So a lot of times women that are coming across the border that are really close to giving birth are needing to do wellness checks before they're able to get clearance to travel. And so a lot of these medical appointments just look like being, again, an advocate, helping them check in, making sure that they know what's going to happen at their medical appointment. Due to COVID, you need to wait in your car while the guest is being checked out at the doctor's office, and then bringing them back and reporting any medications they might need or follow-up appointments before they can travel. And then finally, we have a courier position, which includes packing up like food and hygiene bags at our shelter and delivering them to the hotels. So this really is a critical effort for us to be able to make sure that everybody has the food that they need every single day, has formula or diapers or new clothing, any supplies that they might need throughout the day. This is really how we get those supplies to them. So these are 3 ways that the general public can come and help us. We do have an onboarding process that includes a background check and a couple other waivers and things like that, but it really is an effort that we are trying to get additional support on, especially as we get started up. We know that with COVID, it does make it a little bit more difficult for people to do anything in person. So if you have been fortunate enough to have completed your vaccines and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable coming in person, we would love your support. I also wanted to share that next Wednesday, March 3rd, at noon, we are having a community conversation on rebuilding our immigration system. And so if anybody is interested in joining us for that conversation, it is open to the public, and we will have 3 speakers that are coming on to talk about prioritizing public health within the immigration system. And so it's a great way to, again, find additional resources and hear from people that are spending their life's work on this topic. And so if you're interested in that, you can, we will send you some more information in a follow-up email as well with details for how to sign up for that.
Thank you. Jeff, how are we doing on time? Can we go over a couple of questions that were sent?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
We're doing good. And thank you very much, Katrina. And I'm assuming maybe one of the questions for Katrina that I have is, when I volunteered there before, I was on the, I can't remember the name of the program, but I would go onto the website and I would check for opportunities. Is that still available for people that have volunteered in the past? That we can go back into the website, click on opportunities, and we'll see the three job descriptions that you just described.
Yes, so I just sent my email address into the chat. So anybody that doesn't have a login already, they can go ahead and reach out to me there, and I'd be happy to get you set up. But we do have a volunteer database that is ready for people to sign up and use those links to get started. A lot of our positions are on call right now just because we are continuing to play with the logistics of who's coming across and when we need additional support. Right now we've been seeing between 25 to 35 people a day, but anticipating that number going up to 300, depending on how many are being released. And so that's why we have things on call kind of as we assess our needs. But Once you have gone through the onboarding process, which includes our background check and a couple other paperwork items, then we would give you access to start signing up for shifts through those links.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think what we're going to need to do for AMMPARO purposes is we're going to need to go ahead with some things that we are doing with AMMPARO so that we cover the basics. And then we're going to go to some other logistical legal questions at the end, because we want to make sure that our regular AMMPARO members know what's going on and what our current goals are as Pacifica Synod. If you need to go, is there any of you experts that can stay on and answer some legal questions? Okay, Diana, can you stay? Okay, all right. If Diana can stay, then I know if others, I know JFS is burning the candle at both ends. So I'll turn it over to Roberta now so we can talk briefly about what's going on. And if others need to go, please stay if you can. But if you need to go, we understand. Okay, Roberta, you're on.
Okay, hello everybody. All right, so we're working our way down from the big picture to here on the ground, and we got some good ideas from Katrina, and our particular AMMPARO network here in the Pacifica Synod has recently received 2 grants. One for $950 from the Matthew 25 grant that's available every year. And that one we can spend pretty much any way we want to assist immigrants in, settlement supplies, food, whatever it might be. And then we also got a $4,000 grant from the ELCA grant makers. And that grant is a little more restricted, mainly because it's more money, but it's, we have less options about the way we can use it, mainly because the purpose of the grant is to get our folks, our ELCA Pacifica Synod folks, involved with the immigrant community. So they don't want us just writing checks or handing out items without having that more specific connection between the immigrants and the community. So we were able to write a grant which has 3 components. And the first component is what I've decided to call a bridge team. And let me back up just a tiny bit, because several months ago, this particular AMMPARO chapter decided that it was important to connect with Haitian Bridge Alliance as a way to accomplish some of our goals. And just to give you a very brief history of Haitian Bridge Alliance, it actually started in 2016 when a woman named Gerline Joseph, who is a Haitian immigrant herself, she and her family came here when she was a child, in one of the many during one of the many unstable periods that nation unfortunately has. And so there aren't a whole lot of Haitians in Southern California. So suddenly in 2016, a whole bunch of Haitians were showing up at the border, basically because when some of these folks had left Haiti, they left because they were welcomed into Brazil as workers. And then when the Brazil economy collapsed, they were kicked out, basically, said, go away, we don't want you anymore. And, so they headed north. And they did leave Haiti because of the unsafe conditions there, but they thought they had a place to be at first. So anyway, they showed up here at our southern border, somebody knew that Gerline lived in Orange County and was a Haitian immigrant. And so they called her. And that was the beginning of her giving up her very successful career in the corporate world and basically co-founding Haitian Bridge Alliance because somebody needed to help these folks. And over the years since then, the organization has continued to grow, mainly with volunteer help, including all volunteer time by Gerline for all those years until finally the board, I'm a member of the board, decided this is crazy, we need to pay this woman. And from there, you know, we continue to get grants and other kinds of support. And so we've been able to hire a few more staff. And Haitian Bridge Alliance does direct services as what Gerline was doing in the beginning, but we also do educational work both for the affected community and for, you know, the allies who might want to get involved. We do advocacy, and more recently we've been able to hire a couple of attorneys, so we also provide legal support. And one thing that we instituted last year were these support teams. And so I've been on a couple of teams. I've done it on my own as a sponsor, but being on a team is way easier, believe me. And it's a good way to work with folks. So I've been on a couple teams, and now one aspect of our grant is that we want to build a support team, a bridge team, as I'm calling it, for a family, a recently arrived Haitian family, which that family actually has now 7 children. Right after we got them to San Diego, the newest baby was born, and they are being cared for to a certain extent by Haitian Bridge Alliance, but the work of the support team is quite broad. We do many of the kinds of things that Katrina mentioned in her talk in terms of helping connect folks with legal services, helping them with transportation issues, medical appointments and that sort of thing. But we go beyond that and we try to connect them because these are folks who are staying in the community. So we connect them with social services and medical services and schooling. It's really important that we help adults get signed up for ESL. And Jackie has a lot of experience with that. And so she's a great resource on how to help with those things as well. And so for this part of our grant, we are looking to bring together a team of people who, because of COVID at this point, all of our meetings, both with the family and with ourselves, will be by Zoom. But during those meetings, we get to know each other, we find out what the specific needs are, and then the team can meet, you know, some of it can be discussed during the meeting with the family, but some of it we meet separately and we say, okay, who wants to handle schooling? And that person then would help the family figure out how to get their kids enrolled in school and you know, if necessary, show up. Obviously that no showing up is happening right now, but when it does, and help facilitate the conversation with the teacher, you know, maybe be there for the first parent-teacher conference, those kinds of things. So, but, you know, it also help people figure out how to get around the community, help them, you know, learn that where the bus stops are and get bus passes and that sort of thing. So we have some funds that we can use for some of those types of activities. And also, you know, there's food. They're being given food by Haitian Bridge Alliance, but there are other sources of food available within the community. I know JFS has a once a week food donation where somebody on the team could be responsible for food. And that is a touchless kind of thing. You get the food. I don't know how they do it at JFS, but where I go for food for my folks here in Orange County, I open my trunk, they put it in the back. I get to my folks that I'm supporting, I open the trunk and they take their food out. So it's a safe and touchless way to help people, but it's also a way for me to have eyes on with folks and see that, okay, you know, we're keeping our distance, we've got our masks on, but yeah, he looks like he's doing okay, he sounds okay, you know, that kind of thing. So that's a valuable thing to do. So that's one. I am definitely looking for volunteers to be on that team. And if you want to volunteer now, that would be wonderful, because we really want to pull that together and help that team, help that family continue to integrate into the community.
May I interject then?
Yes.
So basically, we're putting our money where our mouth is as Pacifica Synod AMMPARO. We're going to be supporting this family, and we're specifically supporting a family, a Black family, because we know that there's been ongoing prejudice towards people of the darkest skin color. So quick though, Roberta, can you talk about, and the family is in San Diego, so not in Orange County.
Right, the family is in National City, and we'll learn more about each other when we go, you know, when we have that first meeting with them, that first Zoom meeting. I will have to have an interpreter because they do speak Haitian Creole and I don't. And so we, you know, an interpreter will be part of that team as well. But you know, minimum 4, 5, 6 people, because there's a lot to do when you've got kids involved as well. So right now, that would be wonderful. If you need more time to think about it and want to email me, of course.
When are you hoping to have that first meeting?
As soon as I can, as soon as I have a team, basically. I mean, I've got to pull the team together first, and then, you know, get people's schedules coordinated. And if you're not, somebody asked a question, if you're not in San Diego area, how can you help out? Well, you could still be on the team. There would be a number of things that you could do at a distance, you know, if we're trying to help people find medical clinics and you want to do research on that, or, you know, there are things you can do without physically being in San Diego County. On the other hand, there are other teams that are being developed in Orange County, LA County, Riverside, San Bernardino County. So, you know, there's that as well. I think Pastor Sarah mentioned that St. Andrews would like to be involved. Okay. Do you want me to check in with you separately to get those names, Pastor Sarah?
Yeah, if you and I could talk or email, if you and I could talk to email, I think we have a group that's been ready for it, exactly this kind of a support.
Excellent.
So
excellent. Okay,
yeah.
Good. And could you, I know I have your email somewhere, but could you put it in the chat for me just to make it easy?
Yes, I will. I'll put my cell phone in there too.
Thank you so much.
I
think, go ahead.
If I may interject though, we're also trying very hard to gather more congregations to be a part of this. And just to let you know, we are very grateful to Pacifica Synod for handling our monies. And if we do want to do another fundraiser, we do need to get Synod Council approval, but those kinds of things are possible as well to support this effort.
Yeah. If we need cash and we can't use grant money for those purposes, yeah, there are certainly other ways, fundraisers and so on, donations through your church and that sort of thing. Any other questions?
And so if anybody wants to join your bridge team or be a volunteer, they should just email you,
Yes,
Roberta.
and I need to put my email back in the chat. I'll do that right now. Okay, let me go on to the, let me make sure I spelled it right. Oh, let's see, this is to Pastor Carla. I need to make it to everyone. She knows my email. There we go. Okay. So let me go on to the other parts of the grant. We also have a portion of the grant, which is an immersion experience in Mexico. That is on the optimistic assumption that at some point we will be able to travel again. So certainly be thinking about that in a couple of ways. Number one, we need folks to help plan that you know, figure out the logistics and all that sort of thing. And then of course, we just, as many people who want to come, there are a number of things that happen, and Pastor Carla, I've done this before, I've done it a couple times too, but if either one of you want to give a quick summary of what kind of happens during that immersion experience, that would be great. Pastor Nate, are you able to give us a quick idea of what you've done in the past? I think he must have had to step away. Okay,
Nate,
Pastor Carla.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we go down to basically to Instituto Madre Asunta in Casa de Migrantes, which is part of the Roman Catholic Church, and they accept migrants from any direction, and they are well established in the community, and we have found ways to support them in a lot of ways. And it's eye-opening because they have people from all over the world that they are serving. So we feel very comfortable working with them. That's what we've been doing thus far, and Nate does a fabulous job of leading us, so I hope that will happen again sometime in the near future. Go ahead.
Okay, good. And then part of what we do while we're there is we go shopping in a grocery store in Mexico, because it's makes more sense to spend the money there. You can't bring that much across the border without having to pay a fee anyway. So, and some of that money comes from donations from folks. So moving on, then the third component of our grant, which is a pretty exciting one, but again is an optimistic one, waiting for COVID to free us up a little bit. And that is that we want to provide camp scholars. I always forget what they, what is it?
Lutheran retreats, camps, and conferences.
I was trying to remember what the word was. Yeah, that what we are looking to do is to provide scholarships for immigrants within our community. Now, these folks don't have to be asylum seekers. They don't have to be part of the, you know, the family that we're supporting, though they could be. And what we're trying to do is to be able to have, whether it's just kids from a family, an immigrant family in your congregation or whatever, go and participate in a camp. The last time I looked, which has been quite a while, the only way you could go to camp was as a family unit. But at some point, I'm assuming they're going to open it up for group camping again, maybe not before the year is up. But so that's another one. And we have funds for that in the amount of, sorry, I lost my page. A couple $1,000, I think, is what we set aside for that. Let's see. Here, let me find it. Yeah, about $21.50. So we figured a couple $1,000 plus camp transportation costs, we could send quite a few people to camp. So that's the other part. And we would need a coordinator for that as well.
And you know, I'll be happy to work with that aspect. So
yeah, we've got an expert.
In the interest of time, I'm wondering if we could jump to our planning meeting and see if we have any volunteers, and then we have these legal questions. There's quite a few questions. I want to make sure we have enough time to get our experts to answer those. So Jeff, can you take that part, please?
Yep. Our next planning meeting is scheduled for March 23rd, and then our main meeting will be on March 27th, unless there's any significant objections. But we're asking for thoughts on subject matter for the next meeting. I think we're definitely going to have an update on the teams that Roberta is trying to put together for the Bridge Alliance, for the bridge teams, and probably gather up some more names that would want to venture across the border. I think everybody is, whoever is interested, to go ahead, and Katrina has provided some links if people are interested in volunteering at the Jewish Family Services Migrant Shelter. But if you have any other thoughts, this is a collective group and we'd like to hear. I mean, if you have a thought for a subject matter for next month, please let us know. And you can either, you can email Pastor Carla, myself, or Deacon Roberta. And we encourage attendance at that meeting also. So if you do have an idea, please plan to attend the meeting.
We will make a concerted effort towards this asylum family right now. We have divided our interest, kind of a one major focus every couple of months. So that will be our focus now. And we're very open to doing something similar to with JFS. So those are our local areas. Okay, if you can make it to a planning meeting, we need more people on our planning team. We're forging ahead with what we want Pacifica Synod AMMPARO to look like, and we want your input. So please speak to one of us. So is it okay now if I go ahead with the questions and we can finish? Is that good, everyone?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. All right. The first question was, the financial cost of asylum application and other immigration processes has greatly increased under the Trump administration. How have those costs changed now? Who could answer that?
Okay, I can jump in. So under the Trump administration, lots of, we kind of, with many issues. One of those were the fee increases. And so Department of Homeland Security announced an onslaught of fee increases on all different case types, but and there was outrage about that. And it was actually struck down. And so we kind of had this pendulum swinging where we thought we were going to have fee increases and asylum seekers were going to be required to pay fees, which is just unheard of. And then we only later to find out that that was struck down. So we're back to the original system, and that is thankfully a good thing. So we do not have those fee increases in place. So.
Thank you. The next question is, Jeff, it'll be a tech question. We're hoping we can have this presentation up on the AMMPARO Pacifica Synod AMMPARO page. So we'll talk about how to make that so.
Yep, we'll do it.
Excellent, you rock. Okay. Please explain, next question, please explain the broader definition of essential workers. Many undocumented worked as landscapers, housekeepers, house cleaners, etc. on an individual basis rather than employees. Would such individuals be considered essential workers? Who can answer that?
I can take that on. If you give me just 1 minute, I'm going to pull up the document that many of us have been referring to. It comes from the Migration Policy Institute, but essentially what we have is a very broad definition of essential workers. There's typically sort of 3 that are mentioned or talked about. Definition 1 includes food industries, healthcare, delivery, scientific research, and first responders. Definition 2 refers to frontline workers. And definition 3 is all CISA defined essential workers. For for just brevity, I'm just going to summarize some of the essential workers that have been talked about in the context of the Citizenship for Essential Workers Act, which looks at the CISA definition of essential workers, and that would include healthcare, emergency response, sanitation, restaurant ownership, food preparation, vending, catering, and packaging, and delivery, hotel or retail, fish, poultry, and meat processing work, agricultural work, including labor that is essential and that is seasonal in nature, commercial or residential landscaping, commercial or residential construction or renovation, housing, residential and commercial construction, domestic work in private households, including childcare, home care, and house cleaning, natural disaster recovery, disaster reconstruction, home and community-based work, including home health care, residential care, and assistance with activities of daily living. I'm going through this very quickly, but it would also include family care, including childcare services, in-home childcare services, manufacturing, warehousing, janitorial work, laundromat and dry cleaning operators, as well as any other work that a state or local government deems to be essential during the emergency during this emergency as referred in this bill. So I will provide you a link to the CISA definition. That's the most expansive definition that's been talked about. So really, when we refer to pathway to earn citizenship for essential workers, or we're talking about essential workers, it depends upon the definition, but I think we can all agree that all people who are providing their labor during this time should be considered essential in nature because of the sacrifices and the risk that they have to put to provide for their families and to continue to drive the economy forward. So in the chat, I'll just put the CISA definition, and just with a caveat that it's not a given that this definition will be the one that's used or used all the time, but that's just one of the definitions that's out there.
Thank you very much. The next question is, an argument against comprehensive immigration is that the U.S. cannot absorb all individuals who are in violent circumstances, estimated to be hundreds of thousands. What's the best way to respond to such concern? Who will answer that? Diane, do you feel comfortable answering that one?
Let's see. I think, first of all, we have to first recognize that we do have treaties in place that do provide us with an obligation to help protect individuals who are being persecuted. I think that whenever we look at asylum policies, it really should be a two-prong approach. Obviously, you have the individuals who are coming into the country seeking refuge, but then I think we also have an obligation to look at what are the conditions in that other country that is creating this need to flee, and what can we do to help stabilize those situations, because the majority of people would obviously want to stay in their homeland if it is a conducive situation. And so I think it's important to look at all of that. And I also think that we do have an economy that can be flexible. Individuals can contribute in different ways. And many immigrants, including individuals who come as asylum seekers and refugees, studies have shown that immigrants create jobs, that they are creating businesses and employing US workers. And so there is also this idea that immigrants can also help economy. We have to take as a
Thank you
whole.
very much. Okay. Next question. If an asylum seeker does not have a sponsor, as in no final U.S. address, can they be admitted? Go ahead.
Yes, they can. The issue really is, they will then be processed and be put into immigration proceedings here in the San Diego area. The concern obviously is limited resources here in San Diego with 9,000 to 10,000 people kind of coming through. And so as many people that can kind of move on to other locations to help spread the different communities helping these individuals, the better. But individuals who do not have a location to go to then could remain here in San Diego. One of the conversations that we've recently had was with congressional staffers, because there is a concern that a good number of people will remain in San Diego. And so do we have the financial resources to help support San Diego to take in these individuals? And Congressman Scott Peters' office advocate and seek money for the San Diego area to help support the resources that would be strained with the individuals coming into the local area. So we'll definitely see how that goes.
Thank you very much. Okay. One question. I'm curious if President Biden's proposed legislation contains a lot of new changes, or is it mostly changes encouraged for many years? The 8-year path seems like a long time. Why 8 years? And does this mean DACA people, for example, have to wait 8 more years? Who could answer that one for us? Giovana, are you comfortable with that one? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll take that question. It does actually include a lot of things that have been popular in the past. So important to mention is the fact that the pathway to citizenship here is for DACA recipients, for TPS holders. That's it's very similar to the language that was proposed and has already been passed in the House under HR 6. So the actual pathway, though, for Dreamers and people with PPS would be shorter than that for people who are undocumented immigrants. So for Dreamers and TPS holders, they would be able to apply and receive green cards immediately. I believe also farm workers would be able to receive green cards immediately, or lawful permanent residency. Undocumented immigrants who do not qualify for green cards would be eligible for a temporary legal status known as lawful prospective immigrant. And that's the one that's an 8-year path. So 5 years as a LPR, and then, as LPI, and then an additional 3 years to then apply for citizenship. It's an exciting bill. And as I mentioned, it already includes a lot of things that are popular by nature that have already received bipartisan support. And it's a strong message to the world that, we're turning a new page. And hopefully this is sort of a map for other, because the bill itself doesn't only include citizenship, roadmap to citizenship. It also talks about the root causes of migration. It provides more in-country supports for people who are in need of protection to come to the United States. It includes a provision in there so that we don't have discriminatory bans like those against Muslim countries and African countries that were announced during the Trump administration. It's a very strong message to the world. We want to see these reforms enacted in some way. So it is exactly that. It has strong support. It's popular in across different parties. It's across popular between different members of Congress. And our only hope is to stay away from it being stymied in Congress and actually passed in some way. So we'll be looking and monitoring this bill to make sure that if it's not passed as a bill through regular order, it's implemented in some way, in other ways, as if it's broken down or passed through, budget reconciliation process, for example, or through other means like through the regular appropriations process. So it's a very strong message to the world and to the country that we're headed towards a new direction.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and then Diana, somebody had a question specifically for you. Can you offer insights on when postponed final asylum hearing court dates, postponed from fall 2020 in San Diego Immigration Court, might be rescheduled? Good luck.
Yeah, I think that this has, my colleagues who practice in the San Diego courts, it's been the bane of their existence recently. We have seen court cases canceled in the fall due to COVID, and they have been rescheduled as far as 24 months out. And one of the issues with these cases being pushed out so far, being pushed out 2 years, individuals had court dates. They were mentally preparing for these court dates. It is traumatic because you're reliving the persecution and the harm that you have previously experienced. And so you're going through the prep of getting ready to talk about this, only to find out that your day in court has been canceled and pushed forward, for 2 years. And so this trauma gets, relived and extended as this process just extends out. But yeah, that's, what we're seeing is cases being rescheduled as far as 24 months out.
Thank you very much. There is one more question, but it's a specific one that Diana might know about. So I think I want to honor everyone's time if we're okay with this. Hopefully you did get your question answered. If you want to stay after, we'll answer what we can. But I just want to remind everyone that we are here following the Christ that knows no boundaries. It crosses all borders, all barriers, and that is who we want to serve. I also want to recall to everyone, please, that we are trying to make Pacifica Synod a welcoming and kind synod for our immigrant population, of which we have so many. So we want to make this a priority. We do invite you to be a part of the planning team as we move forward so that we can be the best we can be. And we always remember we answer every question we can because we want to include everyone. We are of all political backgrounds, and we want everyone to be able to be a part of what we're doing here. Huge thank you to our guest speakers. Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much, Giovana. And thank you so much, I think she's not here anymore, but Katrina from JFS. What incredible opportunities we have around us here. So there were a couple more questions, but we do need to let everybody go. So we'll stay, some of us will be here for a bit longer afterwards, and I would like to close us in prayer. Jesus, we will always remember that you were a refugee, that you fled for your life. We will always remember that you again and again reached out to the marginalized, the forgotten, the oppressed, and that in you there is a way where there seems to be no way. So again, we ask your blessing on those who serve our immigrant population, either professionally or as volunteers. And we ask that you will guide us now as we work with this family from Haiti, and that you'll help us to see new visions and new ways that we can be a part of the body of Christ, welcoming all as you have commanded us to welcome. This we pray in your holy name. Amen. All right, thank you all. If you can stay, there's a couple more questions. If not, we will see you in March 27th will be our next AMMPARO meeting, just a month from now. Okay. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As people are saying
Thank you,
goodbye,
everybody.
though,
Thank you, Diane.
gonna-
Thank you, Giovana.
there was a question, if person is still here, wondering about the advocacy work AILA is doing to reduce the wait time for asylum seekers to be eligible to receive their EADs, which I don't understand the question, but.
So
Kathy's question? Go ahead.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Kathy. So yes, Ayla is definitely taking that issue on. There have been EAD just delays across the board, but particularly with asylum seekers. I can definitely look at, because I think there were some pieces that they put out on what particular action items they are taking. And so, Kathy, I can definitely forward that to you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, those just, you've got the moment to talk to each other, so take it, right? So, and I just want to make sure everyone who's still here knows who Giovana is. Thank you so much for being here and all your expertise. Part of our ELCA and working so diligently. And we're here also to support you in your work. Greatly, greatly appreciative for you being here. You're always welcome because it helps tie us into the big picture. Yeah. And again, we try to do micro things. We've done little things like supplying masks for survivors of torture. And we're trying to do macro things, and we're trying to work with whomever is in our community. So we are open. That's our goal. Open and willing.
Jeff, we need to put that in the email follow-up. I had that in my notes somewhere that I was going to let people know. One of the things they noticed with the Haitian shelters that most folks didn't have masks. So in our congregations, if people want to make washable masks, it's most practical that they be washable. We can use probably thousands of them. And I meant to bring that up and forgot to.
Yeah, we can ask.
So Roberta,
Yeah,
Kathy, the Cura Sports, I can connect you and
good.
they could probably donate. We just got donated 2,000 masks
Great.
to us. Shipping fee of $35. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
I-
send me an email to remind me and I'll connect you.
Yeah. Right. And then we can add it to the follow-up as well, because that's the kind of thing that some folks who aren't ready to get out yet or be quite as, you know, out there can make masks, and we'll take them down to Mexico.
Yeah, especially for the children. I think these are one size, and so you're going to need some smaller ones.
Yeah, good point.
Congregations.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks.
Cool.
Sure.
Speaking
think,
of Mexico, I sent Pastor Nate a chat to let him know, to let him inform us of when he wants to go back to Tijuana.
Yeah, he
So that we
said
can broadcast.
soon.
I'm not gonna hold my breath, but maybe soon, maybe soon. What was I gonna say real quick? Well, anyway, I just want to say thank you to everybody, and we'll just keep on doing what we're doing. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so
Very
much.
Thank you so much,
Diana,
everyone.
thank you, Giovana.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Roberta and Jeff, I know Jeff, you've got to
Yeah.
go, but
Well,
okay.
I'm still here.
All right, okay, we'll just planning team people stay on for just a bit longer.
Thank you. Bye.
Giovanna, you want to stay with us? Or maybe she just froze. Okay.
She might.
Well, I thought that went really well. Thank you.
Very,
Okay.
very well.
Good, good.
Very good.
I'm glad time. Wow, I just feel like we're just galloping through this, but
I know, but it's
it goes.
yeah, we have 25 people, so that's one of our better numbers, if not the best.
The
So,
I
best.
agree.
Yep. So we just got to keep it rocking and rolling, and that's why maybe we'll get some feedback from some other folks on what subjects they would like. Because, You know, besides supporting the Haitians and individuals can go to JFS.
Jeff, is St. Andrew something from Jeff's church? It looks like he's
Yeah.
frozen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anyone from St. Mark's yet. I'm trying to very gently
Yeah.
approach this, and yeah. Well, actually, Sue is an associate member. I don't know if you know that, Jeff.
Oh.
So she decided to keep an associate member with St. Mark's. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, and
Alright.
she's at Shepherd of the Valley too.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's officially at Shepherd of the
Okay.
Valley.
All right.
So, okay,
So,
you got your everything in the chat copied?
Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, good. Great. Yeah, for some reason I wasn't seeing
My internet's
that
off.
you were seeing.
No,
Carl.
can there just come to me? So
Great.
yeah, and that way it could be
Right.
anonymous too, which is probably good.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah,
I
that was
appreciate
easy.
that.
It was easy, and it wasn't an issue. The only iPhone was Nate. That was so funny.
Yeah,
I do think we need to be open. Definitely think we should get that LIRS political action out there.
Right.
That one that's important. So that should maybe go out within minutes.
Okay.
Like the first thing would be the LIRS action, and then the
Okay.
second thing would be the minutes, so that we get, you know, people say they only pay attention to the top bit of the screen anyway.
right. Yeah, yeah.
So-
those up at the
Are you
beginning.
talking about the notice that we sent out on Thursday for everybody to submit a letter in response to the
Somebody froze. Was me.
Oh, the letter, I don't think so. We didn't even talk about that, did we? The one, you sent that out already from Bishop Andy.
right.
Give me a second. I know you're still, if you gotta go, you gotta go, but what is
I sent it out twice. So
Right.
yeah.
That one had a deadline of Friday.
yeah, last Friday, yesterday.
So I think this is different right now.
Okay.
The LRIS take action. Let me
Oh,
see.
on their website?
I'm
Okay.
looking at it.
Is I think-
Action Center.
I get all of their notifications.
You know how it's like you want them to really give you the top one for situations like this?
Yeah.
Did she put it in the chat? Let me look here.
Giovana she's sending me the presentation, so I'm going to include that. I was also, because Terry asked if she could put that on.
Oh,
Bruce finally
Hi.
got on.
oh, hi.
You're late, Bruce, but I got it recorded.
It's over.
Yep.
What happened?
We started at 10.
Oh, I thought it was going to be at noon.
No, 10.
Oh,
Well, you know what? We'll catch you up on everything, and it'll be this same time, 10 o'clock, a month from now.
27th.
And
So
it
we'll-
is recorded, so you'll be able to, if
You got a
you
recording,
want.
Bruce.
It's really, yeah, and it's gonna be a great recording.
can I see it today somehow? Or listen to
Well,
it?
I've not today, probably Monday or tomorrow. I got it.
Tomorrow is
Tomorrow
would
recording,
really,
it's got to convert.
okay, tomorrow would really help me.
Okay.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi,
I don't
Bruce.
know you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Pastor Carla.
Hi. Are you a member of, how do you know Jeff?
Shepherd of
Oh,
the Valley.
awesome. Great
Are-
church.
Are
Great
you
church.
two interested in the support team for the family? Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Oh, still can't hear you.
Still can't hear you, Cheryl.
Something funny's going on with your sound.
Okay.
Can you hear,
I'll talk to them.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
My wife works full time and I'm going to school and we don't have a whole lot of extra time at
Okay.
this point, but I will, but yes, ultimately we will be, we like definitely to be more involved.
Great.
then
Great.
it-
Wonderful.
And then Jeff, if you'd let us know if, yeah, I was able to get the link and everything, but I thought it was still at noon.
No, I sent that link had the 10 o'clock time on a Google.
Okay.
Okay, but we'll chat.
Sorry.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
look forward to seeing you next month.
That would be great. And then Jeff, if you can, I'd sure appreciate getting it sent to me so I can listen to it
Sure.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
so
I gotta
much,
download it,
everybody.
and it takes about 2 hours for it to convert. So I'll get it to you either this afternoon or tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And
Okay.
bye.